Hello and welcome. I'm Aiden, your narrator for tonight. Let's take this time together to step away from the rush of the day and ease into a world of dreams and wonder. Tonight, I'll tell you a story called The Cosmic Garden, where a young girl named Aria follows her curiosity into the stars and discovers a secret garden that blooms with the light of distant galaxies. It is a story of wonder, hidden beauty, and the quiet magic that lives within every dreamer's heart. But before we begin, we'd love to hear from you. Where are you listening from? And what time is it as you settle in to hear this story? We'd also love to know what kinds of stories you'd enjoy next. Your thoughts and suggestions inspire us, so please share them in the comments below. If you'd like even more from us, you can check out our Patreon, where you'll gain early access to all our stories, as well as a curated Spotify playlist to help you rest. And if these bedtime stories have been a gentle pause in your nights, subscribing is the simplest way to support us. It means the world to us, and it helps us keep this space soft and sacred for dreamers like you. Now, take a slow, deep breath. Feel your shoulders relax, your thoughts soften, and your heart settle into a calm rhythm. Let the stars draw near and allow yourself to drift gently into the story as we begin our journey into the cosmic garden. Aria loved the quiet of night more than any other time. While the world around her hushed itself into sleep, she found herself awake and eager, her eyes drawn to the dark velvet sky stretching endlessly above. From her small bedroom window, she would sit curled in her chair, gazing upward as if the stars were old friends, whispering secrets meant only for her. Each twinkle seemed alive, sparkling in a way that tugged gently at her imagination. Some nights, she would trace constellations with her finger against the glass, inventing her own names for them, while on others, she simply let her mind wander among the countless points of light. On this particular night, something felt different. The stars seemed brighter, their glow steadier, almost pulsing in unison, as though they were calling her name. Aria tilted her head, pressing her cheek against the cool window pane, and squinted into the distance. There it was, one star that shimmered more brightly than the rest, not sharp and cold, but soft, like a lantern burning in the distance. It flickered with a rhythm that made her heart quicken, as if it were beckoning her to follow. Curiosity stirred inside her, warm and insistent. She whispered to herself, "What are you trying to show me?" The words felt like a promise, like an invitation she had unknowingly accepted. She blinked, and for just a moment, she thought she saw a faint glimmer stretching from that star toward her window, like a thread of silver light weaving through the night. She rubbed her eyes, but the shimmer remained, faint yet undeniable, and her heart swelled with a quiet certainty. Aria closed her eyes, letting the gentle glow press into her mind, and soon the world around her softened into silence. The cool air of her room seemed to fade, replaced by something warmer, something filled with possibility. She felt as though she were floating, carried upward on a soft breeze of starlight. When she opened her eyes again, she was no longer simply watching the stars. She was among them. The night sky had unfolded beneath her feet, a luminous path stretching out before her, each step glimmering like crystal. For the first time, Aria realized that the stars she had admired for so long were not unreachable after all. They had been waiting for her, patiently, until her curiosity grew bright enough to open the way. And so, with wonder shining in her eyes, she took her first step onto the trail of light. Aria's first step onto the glowing trail was tentative, but the moment her foot touched its surface, it pulsed gently, as though welcoming her. The light rippled outward in waves, shimmering into the vastness of space. She gasped softly, a mix of fear and delight filling her chest, and quickly looked back to see her home fading into a blur of starlight behind her. Ahead, the path curved gracefully through constellations she had only ever traced from her window, now vast and magnificent, each star glowing with warmth rather than distance. She walked slowly at first, marveling at the way her steps left glowing footprints that lingered like tiny lanterns before dissolving into the air. It felt as though the universe itself was recording her journey, marking her passage through this dreamlike realm. The silence was not empty. It carried a faint hum, like a lullaby woven from the voices of the stars. The sound wrapped around her, soothing her nerves, encouraging her to move forward. As she continued, Aria noticed curious sights unfolding along the path. Clusters of light swirled together to form delicate shapes. Birds with wings of flame, fish swimming through invisible waters, and flowers that bloomed and dissolved in seconds. They hovered near her, as if curious about her presence, glowing softly before drifting back into the starlit void. She reached out to touch one, a star-shaped petal, and it dissolved into a shower of sparks against her palm, leaving a warmth that spread through her fingers. The path narrowed, curving between vast glowing clouds of nebulae. Their colors shifted like silk, deep blues fading into purples, streaks of gold and crimson weaving across their surfaces. Aria felt as though she were walking through a painting too grand for any canvas. She breathed deeply, the air here strangely light, carrying a sweetness like blossoms after rain. Though she should have been afraid of being so far from home, Aria felt no fear. Her curiosity had grown stronger than her doubts. The further she walked, the more the path revealed itself, unfolding like a ribbon stretching endlessly into wonder. She began to feel that this journey was meant for her alone, a trail woven from her questions, her dreams, her unspoken longing to see what lay beyond the horizon. At the farthest edge of sight, where the path glowed brightest, she noticed something taking shape. An arch of silver vines and radiant blossoms shimmered, its glow calling to her like a heartbeat in the night. As Aria drew nearer, the glow at the end of the path became clearer, no longer just a distant shimmer, but a grand arch rising out of the starlight itself. It was unlike anything she had ever imagined. Silver vines wove together in delicate spirals, glistening as though coated with dew made from the light of moons. Nestled among the vines bloomed flowers of every hue, radiant blossoms that pulsed with the soft rhythm of galaxies far away. Each petal seemed to hold its own constellation, tiny pinpricks of light twinkling within, as if whole worlds were hidden inside their fragile forms. The air around the arch trembled with gentle sound, a melody too vast to be made by a single voice. It was as if the galaxies themselves were singing, their music threading through the vines and blossoms of the gate. Aria stood still for a moment, staring in awe, her breath caught in her throat. The beauty of it was overwhelming, but it was not just the sight or the sound. It was the feeling, a deep warmth that filled her chest, as though the gate itself was alive and waiting for her. She stepped closer, her feet brushing the final stretch of the glowing path. As she moved, the arch seemed to respond. The flowers turned their faces toward her, petals opening wider to reveal brighter light, and the vines shifted slightly, curling in invitation. A soft breeze drifted through, though no wind should have existed in the endlessness of space. It carried with it a fragrance so faint and delicate that Aria could not name it, a scent both familiar and strange, like a memory just beyond reach. Her heart raced, not with fear, but with anticipation. She reached out a hand, and her fingertips brushed one of the blossoms. It was warm, pulsing like a heartbeat, and the light within it flared softly at her touch. The whole gate shimmered, as if acknowledging her presence. She realized then that this was not a barrier, but a threshold, a doorway into something hidden. The melody swelled, filling her ears with a harmony that seemed to come from within her as much as from around her. Taking a deep breath, Aria stepped beneath the arch. At once, the starlight path behind her dissolved, and she felt the world shift. The gate's glow wrapped around her like a gentle embrace, and when she opened her eyes, she found herself standing in the heart of a garden suspended among the stars. Aria stood in silence, her eyes widening at the sight before her. The garden stretched endlessly, suspended in the vast canvas of the cosmos, yet it felt warm and alive, as though it had been waiting for her all along. Everywhere she looked, flowers bloomed with a brilliance she had never imagined. Some were tall with petals shaped like crescent moons, glowing softly with silvery light. Others were small and delicate, their blossoms shimmering with the colors of nebulae, swirling purples and blues like paint poured across the sky. A few pulsed faintly, their light flickering in patterns that reminded her of the heartbeat of distant stars. The air was rich with fragrance, though no single scent could be named. It was both sweet and calming, like a blend of rain on warm earth and the freshness of morning air. Aria breathed it in deeply and felt a sense of ease settle over her, as though the garden itself was weaving comfort into her very soul. As she stepped forward, the ground beneath her feet glowed gently, soft and springy like moss, though it glittered with tiny sparks of starlight. She bent down to look more closely at one blossom, its petals glowing a pale blue, the hue shifting as though ripples of water were moving across it. When she touched it lightly, the flower gave off a faint hum. To her amazement, the sound carried words, not in a language she knew, but in feelings she could understand. It was the story of a galaxy, a tale of stars being born, of light traveling through endless space, of moments that had existed long before her. Aria drew her hand back in wonder, her heart beating faster. She reached for another flower, this one golden and soft, and again she heard a whisper, this time telling of kindness, of gentle acts performed by unseen hands across faraway worlds. Each flower was more than beauty. It was a vessel of stories, carrying the essence of places she had never known. Looking around, she realized the entire garden was alive with these voices, each bloom a note in a symphony of the universe. The flowers swayed gently, as if nodding to her presence, their glow illuminating the space with a gentle, welcoming warmth. Aria felt tears prick her eyes, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming realization that the universe was not silent at all. It was alive, speaking in quiet ways, waiting for someone curious enough to listen. As Aria wandered deeper into the garden, she noticed a soft radiance gathering ahead, brighter than the blossoms, yet calm, never harsh. She followed it with steady steps, her heart steady but filled with anticipation. Emerging from between rows of glowing vines, she saw a figure waiting beneath an arch of luminous flowers. The figure stood tall, cloaked in robes that seemed woven from the night sky itself, threads of silver and deep indigo shifting like flowing constellations. Their face was serene, ageless, carrying the wisdom of countless stars, and their eyes glowed gently like twin galaxies turning slowly in the distance. Aria felt no fear as she approached. Instead, A quiet reverence filled her, as though she had entered a sacred space. The figure smiled warmly, the kind of smile that made her feel known, as if they had been expecting her all along. When they spoke, their voice was soft, yet resonant, carrying the harmony of the universe itself. "Welcome, Aria," the figure said, her name rolling from their lips as naturally as breath. "You have found the cosmic garden." Aria blinked, surprised that they knew her name, though a part of her was not surprised at all. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice small but steady. The figure inclined their head slightly. "I am Leora, keeper of the garden. I tend to these blossoms, each born from the light of distant galaxies. They bloom only for those who wander with open hearts and curious minds. It is curiosity that unlocks the gate, and it is curiosity that allows you to hear their stories." Aria looked around at the endless flowers glowing softly, each carrying whispers of worlds beyond her own. "It's beautiful," she whispered, though the word felt far too small for what she was seeing. "Beauty," Leora replied, "is the universe's way of reminding us that there is always more to discover. This garden is not hidden from those who are unworthy. It is hidden from those who have stopped wondering." Her eyes shone brighter, starlight glinting within them. "You are here because your curiosity called you." Aria felt her cheeks warm with quiet pride. She understood then that she had not stumbled upon this place by accident. It was her questions, her restless gazes at the night sky, her longing to know what lay beyond the stars that had brought her here. And as she stood before the keeper, she sensed that her journey was only beginning. Guided by Leora's gentle presence, Aria wandered deeper into the garden, where blossoms clustered in quiet alcoves, each one glowing with its own hue of starlight. The keeper motioned toward a flower with petals the color of molten gold. "Touch it," Leora said softly. Aria reached out and, as her fingers brushed the bloom, a warmth spread into her hand. At once, a voice whispered in her mind, carrying images of a faraway world where children shared food beneath twin suns, their laughter rippling across fields of silver grass. The flower pulsed brighter as the story unfolded, until it faded softly, leaving Aria in awe. She turned wide-eyed to Leora. "They're alive," she breathed. "They carry the memories of the stars." Leora's smile was patient and kind. Every star sends its light across the vastness of space, and each flower here is born from that light. They hold not just brilliance, but the stories of the worlds beneath them. The universe is speaking to those who choose to listen. Aria moved to another flower, this one a deep violet with veins of silver. When she touched it, she heard tales of explorers sailing crystal seas, guided only by constellations. She could almost feel the spray of salt water against her cheeks. the thrill of discovery as these voyagers found new shores. Pulling back, she gasped, her heart fluttering. She wandered from bloom to bloom, each one offering a story. A blossom of fiery red spoke of bravery, of a village that stood together against endless storms. A pale blue flower hummed softly about kindness, of strangers sharing shelter during long nights of cold. Another bloom, bright and emerald green, whispered of dreams, of voices singing beneath alien skies where forests glowed. Each tale was different, yet each carried the same thread: hope, courage, and connection woven through the vastness of space. The longer Aria listened, the calmer she felt. The voices of the flowers were not loud or forceful, but gentle, reminding her that even in the vastness of the cosmos, beauty and meaning thrived. She closed her eyes, letting the hum of the garden fill her heart. For the first time, she felt as though she truly belonged to something larger than herself, a great and endless family of stars and stories. When she opened her eyes, Leora was watching her, the galaxies reflected in her gaze. Do you see now, child? The universe is never empty. It is filled with lessons, waiting for hearts that wonder. Aria nodded, her curiosity shining brighter than ever, her spirit quiet and full. As Aria explored further among the glowing paths of the garden, her gaze caught on something unusual. In a corner where the light seemed softer, one blossom hung low, its petals dim and fragile. Unlike the others, which swayed gently with vitality, this flower drooped, its glow flickering weakly as though struggling to remain alive. Aria felt her heart tighten at the sight, a pang of sorrow stirring within her. She moved closer, kneeling at its side, and reached out a careful hand, but hesitated before touching it. Leora appeared beside her, her voice quiet but solemn. You see what happens when curiosity fades, she said, the words carrying a weight that pressed into the air. This flower was born from a galaxy of wonder, but when the hearts of dreamers lose their questions, the light weakens. Without curiosity, beauty dims, and even the strongest blooms may wither. Aria's chest ached at the thought. She had always believed the stars would shine forever, endless and eternal. Yet here was proof that even starlight could falter if it was no longer remembered, no longer sought. She whispered, "Can it be saved?" Leora's gaze lingered on the fading blossom. "It depends," she said slowly. "For the garden does not survive on beauty alone. It survives on the curiosity of those who seek it. If the questions cease, if the wonder dies, then so too will the light." Aria stared at the flower, her own reflection shimmering faintly in its dim petals. She felt a surge of determination rise within her. She thought of all the nights she had pressed her face to the window, all the times she had wondered about what lay beyond the sky. That longing, that questioning, had brought her here. Surely that same spark could help keep the garden alive. She reached out, her hand trembling but steady in intent, and touched the blossom. Its fragile hum stirred faintly, like a heartbeat struggling to find its rhythm. Aria closed her eyes and whispered every question she had ever held. The mysteries of the stars, the wonder of the unseen, the hope that beauty always endured. With each word, she felt warmth flow through her hand, pouring into the flower. The dim light steadied, flickering brighter, and though the blossom was not fully restored, it lifted slightly, as if leaning into her touch. Aria opened her eyes and saw its glow pulsing softly once more. A sense of quiet relief washed over her. She realized then that her curiosity was more than her own. It was a gift she could share, a force strong enough to keep even fading starlight alive. The faint glow of the once dim blossom lingered beneath Aria's hand, fragile yet hopeful, like a candle struggling against the wind. She could feel it responding not just to her touch, but to the energy carried in her thoughts. Her curiosity was not a silent thing. It was alive, flowing outward like ripples across water, reaching the petals and urging them to shine again. Aria closed her eyes and let her mind wander through every moment that had sparked wonder in her life. She remembered the first time she traced constellations from her window, the nights she asked herself how stars were born, and the dreams she carried of what might lie beyond. She thought of how each question had filled her heart with warmth, and how it had led her here, to this very garden. With each memory, the flower beneath her hand brightened, its petals lifting a little higher, its hum growing steadier. She began to hum softly, a tune she didn't know she knew, yet it rose from her chest like it had always been part of her. The melody carried her questions and her awe, weaving them into sound that filled the garden. The nearby flowers swayed in rhythm, glowing brighter as if joining in her song. The fading blossom shimmered in response, colors sparking faintly within its petals, small threads of light running like veins through its form. Leora stood watching, her expression calm, yet touched with something tender. "You see now, Aria," she said quietly, her voice barely above the song. "Curiosity is not only what brings you here, it is the gift you give back. It nourishes the garden as much as the stars do." Aria continued to hum until she felt the blossom grow strong enough to stand on its own. When she finally withdrew her hand, the flower remained upright, glowing with renewed light. It was not as brilliant as the others, but it no longer flickered, and its hum was steady, a heartbeat reborn. Aria's eyes shone as she looked at it, her chest swelling with both pride and relief. The realization settled within her like a quiet truth. She was not just a visitor passing through this place. She was part of it, connected by her wonder. Each question, each moment of awe, was not only hers to carry, but also a spark she could share. And in giving that spark, she ensured the garden would continue to bloom, alive with endless stories of the stars. When the garden quieted again, Aria found herself standing in stillness, her heart full yet heavy with the thought of leaving. She turned toward Leora, who watched her with eyes that shimmered like galaxies in motion. "Must I go back?" Aria asked softly, though she already sensed the answer. Leora's expression was both kind and firm. "All who enter the garden must return. It is not a place to remain, but a place to remind. What you have seen is not lost to you. It lives within you, waiting to bloom whenever you nurture your wonder." Aria lowered her gaze, sadness tugging at her chest. The idea of leaving this place of glowing blossoms and whispered stories felt unbearable. She reached for a nearby flower, letting its glow wash over her, trying to hold on to the memory of its hum. Yet as she did, she noticed the path she had followed beginning to reappear behind her, a thread of silver light weaving outward into the stars. Leora stepped closer and gently placed a hand over Aria's heart. "This garden is not separate from you, child. What you have walked among is the reflection of what has always been inside. The blossoms you touched, the stories you heard, the withering flower you healed, they are mirrors of your own curiosity and courage. Wherever you go, the garden will travel with you." Aria blinked, stunned by the revelation. The shimmering petals, the cosmic melodies, even the arching gate, all of it was real, yet also a reflection of her spirit. The truth filled her with both comfort and awe. She realized then that the beauty she had discovered was not some faraway secret, but something alive within her, waiting only for her to notice. The silver path glowed brighter, pulling gently at her feet. She turned one last time to Leora, who smiled knowingly. "Carry the garden with you, Aria. Keep asking, keep wondering, and you will never lose your way." The pull grew stronger, lifting her into a soft current of starlight. The blossoms around her swayed as though waving farewell, their hums blending into a single lullaby that wrapped around her like a gentle embrace. Aria felt herself drifting, the light dissolving into darkness, the warmth of the garden fading into the quiet of her own breath. When she opened her eyes, she was back in her room, the night sky resting calmly beyond her window, as if nothing had changed. Yet in her heart, she knew everything had. Aria blinked against the dim glow of dawn as it crept through her curtains. For a moment, she wondered if the entire journey had been a dream. a fleeting vision carried by sleep. But then her eyes fell on the windowsill. Resting there, small and delicate, was a seed glowing faintly with a soft golden light. Its surface shimmered like stardust, each speck catching the morning sun in tiny flashes. She reached out and cupped it carefully in her hands, the warmth of it pulsing gently like a heartbeat. The garden had not been a dream. It was real, and a piece of it had chosen to stay with her. She sat quietly on her bed, the seed nestled in her palms, and listened. Though the room was still, she could faintly hear the hum she had grown to love, that tender vibration of stories whispered by distant stars. It filled her with calm, and she smiled, tears gathering in her eyes. The gift was not just the seed, but the reminder it carried. The garden lived within her curiosity, and as long as she continued to wonder, it would never fade. Aria placed the seed back on the windowsill, letting it rest in the soft morning light. She whispered to it, promising that she would never stop asking questions, never stop seeking the beauty hidden beyond sight. A quiet certainty settled in her chest. The garden would always respond to her curiosity, blooming each time she looked at the stars with wonder in her eyes. That night, when she returned to her window, the stars seemed brighter than ever. She no longer saw them as distant points of light, but as friends, guardians of stories waiting to be discovered. Each sparkle reminded her of a blossom, each constellation of the winding paths she had walked. The universe no longer felt vast and empty. It felt alive, overflowing with possibilities she had only begun to glimpse. As sleep gently pulled her into its embrace, Aria closed her eyes with a peaceful heart. The seed glowed faintly in the dark, a steady reminder that curiosity was her guide and her gift. And though she had left the cosmic garden behind, she carried it always within her, blooming quietly each time she chose to look up and wonder at the stars.